All right, so it's New Year's. And probably like a lot of us, you have some things you want to accomplish. You want to get healthier. You want a better marriage. You want a better financial situation. But if you look back 2022 New Year's, you probably had similar thoughts. 2021, 2020, 2019. I want to ask you an honest question. Have you tried and failed a fitness plan before? Yes or no? If you answered yes, you are in the majority. Most of us have tried and failed a plan before. Follow-up question. Looking back, what do you feel like got in the way of you succeeding in that long term? When I posed this question in the call, a lot of people answered it was a relationship, it was an injury. One person said complacency, meaning they got some results and then they let off the gas. There's a myriad of reasons as to why we fail our plans. And I'm no exception. If you're familiar with the 75 Hard Challenge, I won't bore you with the details, but essentially it's 75 days of lots of working out, sticking to a diet, and several other components. And it's a very transformative program for a lot of people. Personally, I'm 0 for 2 on it. The first time I failed about 26 days in. I just didn't really want it. I was camping and I just realized, you know what, I don't want to do this. The second time really stung. I was about 62 days in, and one night I got a little too toasted, and I had a bunch of bowls of cereal, which broke the diet, which means I broke 75 hard. Could I have pushed through? Absolutely. I want to share a quick story with you. There I was in December of 2021. I had failed 75 hard twice. I had failed lots of other things, and I was tired of being the guy that would do something for a little while only to fall back to his old patterns. And I know a lot of you watching this can relate to that. And I also was looking at all of my past failures and wondering what was the difference? What was missing? What do I need to do differently to make this stick this time? See, because a lot of us are unknowingly on the hamster wheel of insanity. We're doing the same things over and over again. We're setting the same goals the same way. We're doing the same diets, the same workout plans that maybe worked for a little while, but they never stuck. And yet we're expecting different results this time. And then there's also some of you that maybe you're doing a new plan. And it's this big elaborate plan. You have this diet to stick to, you have this workout program, and I'm not trying to discourage you from doing that, but I want you to consider something. Look at these last 5 or 6 months. If you, and I'm telling you this with all the love of my heart, if you haven't even been able to stick to the basics these last few months, what makes you think you're going to be able to stick to an elaborate plan? I have a solution. So back to my story. December of 2021, I wanted to do it differently. Just like the quote says, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so I had to change my approach to get consistent. Instead of doing something aggressive like 75 hard, I had to adopt the humility to boil it down to the simplest step that I could take. And what I landed on was 10 minutes of intentional movement every day for the entire year of 2022. Instantly, I felt that daunting feeling of, holy crap, this is a year. That's a long commitment. It's longer than I've ever done anything. Instantly, the doubts came back in. Bro, you couldn't even stick to 75 days. What makes you think you're going to stick to 365? That's why I had to boil it down to 10 minutes, because I knew that no matter what, no matter how hard of a day I had at work, no matter how hard the kids were that day, no matter how unmotivated, how unsatisfied I was with my results, I knew I could do 10 minutes of intentional movement. And so I set some rules for myself. It's 10 minutes and it has to be intentional movement. It can't be shoveling snow. It can't be daily activity from my job, because while that activity is important, it's not intentional movement. So what qualified was walking, running, hiking, those kinds of things, stretching, and obviously working out. And so I embarked on this journey. And for the first couple months, I was going really strong. Obviously, a lot of those days I moved for a lot longer than 10 minutes because a lot of those were workout days. Some of those days it was stretching in front of the TV. And then March hit, March of 2022. And I got sick. And I got sick. Usually I can train through a cold, but I got sick to the point where I actually came out in the garage. I remember this. And I tried to do some pull-ups and I started hacking up a lung. And I started spinning because I'm like, gosh, dang it. Like, I'm 2 months in, I'm finally consistent, I'm feeling good about this plan, and then life happens. Does that sound familiar? That's why this plan and this challenge was so transformative for me, and it's gonna be transformative for you. Because what I did is I wanted to stick to this challenge, and so I had to think outside the box. I couldn't do my normal movements. So I decided to go for a walk. And I will never forget, I was about halfway around my neighborhood and it was a nice day. And I remember thinking to myself, why have I not been walking more? This is fantastic. Because up to that point, I had overlooked walking. Side note, it's amazing what happens when you lean into your setbacks instead of retract and go back to your old ways. The discoveries you make, the new levels you unlock. I discovered how much I really enjoy walking. And guess what? As someone who struggles with the winter blues, that really helps. Having a rhythm of walking really helps. I will regularly walk when I'm doing phone calls or editing videos, and it's fantastic. I never would have felt that way and discovered that had I not been in this challenge. And that's the biggest benefit, one of the biggest benefits of this challenge, is the things you will discover about yourself because you are forced to do 10 minutes. And I'm bringing up this short story of me getting sick because I want you to understand, in case you haven't experienced this yet, whenever you embark on a new journey and you have this resolve and you're like, this is the time where things are finally gonna stick, life will dump it on you. And I'm sure most of you watching this can relate to that because I bet that's happened to you. You get sick, you get hurt, job changes, kids change, whatever, life dumps it on you. That's why 10 minutes is so effective, because no matter how tired you are, if your motivation's in the negative, you can still do 10 minutes. I want you to know too, a good handful of my days in 2022 was me doing the most half-assed stretching routine in front of the TV because I was having those negative motivation days. And I remember looking at this watch and on the 10th minute, boom, I'm done, I'm getting in bed. But that's why I didn't set the goal of 10 minutes of crushing movement. It was 10 minutes of intentional movement. And now I want to fast forward to New Year's Eve, 2022. I had completed 364 days up to this point of 10 minutes. I decided on New Year's Eve to commemorate this challenge that I had never completed before. I'd never completed this level of a challenge before. I wanted to commemorate it by going live on Instagram. And I did my 5, 10, 15 pull-up, push-up, air squat workout, going live, answering questions, and just inviting people to celebrate with me. I cannot begin to describe the feeling I had upon completing that last workout, upon completing that last bout of 10 minutes of intentional movement. I felt unstoppable. A lot of you watching this, you're doubting yourself and you feel insecure about your abilities because you keep stopping. If you're gonna quit something this year, quit quitting. Quit quitting. Have the humility to boil down your action steps to smaller than you think if it helps you take them on a daily basis. I cannot overstate, and I don't use the word transform lightly. I know a lot of people out there do, I don't. When you complete this challenge, you will transform your discipline because that's what it's done for me. I have not had a perfect road since New Year's Eve on 2022, but my ability to pick up a new habit, to kickstart something, to do it anyway, regardless of how I feel, it is at a level that it has never been, and it is 100% thanks to my completing that challenge. And if you're having doubts, first of all, welcome to the club. And I would actually encourage you to see that as a good thing. Because think about any big step you've taken in your life. Getting married, having kids, starting that new job, taking any big risk in life. You were probably nervous. It's because you were taking steps towards something big. And because we're wired for survival, everything in us, when we feel that bout of nervousness, the doubt, the fear, it gives us thoughts to run away from that thing, to not do that thing. I've actually flipped that on its head and learned to see that as confirmation that I'm on the right path. And so if you're looking at this challenge and you're thinking to yourself, you have these doubts, these fears, these insecurities, the memories of you failing things in the past, and it's making you not really sure if you should do this challenge, I want to encourage you, good. You are in the perfect place that you need to be for this challenge. And one more thing that I learned in 2022 when I did this challenge that I really want to touch on because it's important, and I want you to store this away, write it down if you have to, for when you have the hard days. I can remember, like I said, there were a handful of days that I barely made the 10 minutes. It was all I had in me. And I remember thinking to myself, like considering stopping, considering failing the challenge. And like, no, but I wanted the change more than I wanted the instant gratification of stopping. I knew I would regret that forever. And I also knew I would never level up if I didn't choose to push through. I wanted the change more than I wanted the comfort in front of me. I wanted the feeling that I knew I would get on New Year's Eve to be able to say, I did it. And that's available for you too. And you will have those hard days. So I'm telling you this to set the expectation. You will have the hard days and you will fight through them and you will thank yourself. And I'm gonna tell you this too. The big thing that this challenge teaches and the skill that it hones is the ability to show up. And that's actually how I would define discipline. I don't like throwing those words around that can be misconstrued because depending on who you ask, they have different definitions and connotations. For me, the definition of discipline is simple. It's the skill to act in alignment with your values despite feeling or circumstance. It is the skill to act in alignment with your values and goals despite feeling or circumstance. So skill. I use that word very intentionally because a lot of people tend to think discipline is a personality trait that you either have or don't have. And I'm going to tell you lovingly, that's wrong. That is incorrect. It is a skill, and I'm speaking from experience. I am running a successful coaching business. I have completely transformed my discipline and my health, and I used to be the world's laziest kid and the world's laziest young adult as well. Discipline can absolutely be honed as a skill. And so I will tell you this, the main skill of this honed is your discipline, your ability to show up on the hard days. Because I know a lot of you watching this, you're having hard times, maybe even right now. You got a sick family member, you got a really demanding job, whatever it is. But I will tell you this, and actually I'll ask you, haven't you noticed there's always something like that? Or maybe there's brief periods where the clouds part, but then there's the next thing. And if we can agree that a majority of our lives have those pebbles in our paths, have those obstacles, then wouldn't it benefit us to develop the skill to show up on those days anyway? Because I will tell you this, my leveling up in my discipline, in my fitness, and my health did not come on the days where it was easy. It came on the days where I didn't want to do it. I shared in the call yesterday, on New Year's Day, right? You would think being someone in the fitness industry, it's New Year's Day, it's a Monday, like I'm jazzed to work out. I didn't want to work out at all. But because I had 365 repetitions to confirm that A, I don't need to feel motivated to act, and B, I will always feel better after I do it, I did it. And now I no longer wait for motivation. And that's what you can look forward to as well after this challenge. It's going to be long. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. I have a couple quotes that I want to share regarding being motivated versus being driven and disciplined. And then we're going to get into 3 tactical steps. So the first quote, motivated people get destroyed by everything getting in their way. Driven people destroy everything in their way. Because when we're motivated, we're chasing a feeling. We're chasing a positive feeling of being excited, things feeling good, work to not be busy, us to not be stressed, and then we take action. But what's the problem there? Work's gonna get busy, we're gonna get sick and hurt, kids are gonna take up time. There's always gonna be things getting in our way, like we said. So motivated people are constantly fighting for that. Driven people move anyway. Driven people do it anyway, regardless. And here's the thing, it's going to challenge you wherever you need to be challenged. So like time management, for example, if you find, especially in these first couple months, that you're regularly having to do your 10 minutes at the end of your day when you're exhausted, you might want to check your time management. When else can you fit 10 minutes in? It would be worth it for you to go to bed a little bit earlier, to wake up a little bit earlier, to knock out your 10 minutes first thing in the morning. Just something to consider. Quote number 2, motivated people have a goal, driven people have a purpose. Goal, I want to lose 20 pounds. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens? Like the guy said in the call yesterday, sometimes you lose 10 pounds and you're like, I can take a few weeks off. Oh, never mind. I don't need to actually achieve that thing. And we find ways to let off the gas because it's more comfortable to do that. But instead of losing 20 pounds, your purpose for eating better and moving your body is so you can have better energy for your spouse and your kids, so you can gain the confidence to ask for that promotion, so you can live more of your days in a higher frequency state, so you can have a healthy way to deal with stress. Those are evergreen reasons that last whether or not you get your finite result of losing weight. Motivated people have a goal, driven people have a purpose. All right, so 3 steps how we're gonna do this. Number 1 is you need a calendar to mark off every day that you do it. Because how often, for those of you that use to-do lists, have you been doing your to-do list and then you remember something else that's not on that list and you go do it, but then you come back to your list and write it down just so you can cross it off. We do that because it's gratifying to cross stuff off. And I want you to look at how badass you're becoming by how many days you're crossing off. Like even imagine 90 days in, so we're at the end of March, how good it's gonna feel to know that you've stuck to this for 90 days. For a lot of you, that's gonna be longer than you've ever stuck to anything. So get a calendar. If you don't have one, download the one from the resources tab in the community. It's called 10 minutes a day. In that, you'll see all 12 months for the calendar that I want you to print out. Put it in front of you, your bathroom mirror, your fridge, wherever you can, your office, that you're gonna see it a lot. Every day, mark it off. To the left of the calendar, you'll see a Your Routines box. And here's a big thing here. And this leads me into the second thing. So number 1 is you need a calendar. Number 2 is, actually I'm not even gonna highly recommend, I require you, if you're gonna do this challenge, to have 1 to 2 10-minute routines that you can do on your worst days. So I want you to think back to your most recent day where you were feeling the negative motivation, right? Like you were just so unmotivated, you're in the negative, and maybe you ended up just binge watching Netflix. Think of a routine that you can do on that day. I recommend sticking to movements you're familiar with. So maybe that's set a timer for 10 minutes and do push-ups, sit-ups, and air squats for 10 minutes, 10 reps each. Doesn't even have to be pretty. It could be stretches that you like while you're watching Netflix, but set a timer for 10 minutes and do it. These routines need to be something you can do on your worst days. There's gonna be a lot of days where you won't need to rely on these. You'll be able to do a full routine, a full workout, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of moving. There's going to be days where you'll need those 10-minute workouts where you don't need to give it a thought and you just do it. So craft your 10-minute routines, reach out if you need help with that. Number 3, and this one's big, be accountable. It's funny that I can always tell when people in the community are doing well because they're reporting to me a lot more. I can tell when they're not doing as well, when they're not consistent, not checking the boxes because they stop reporting to me. The irony is, when you're not doing well is when you need to be the most accountable. So be accountable. Share what you do for your 10 minutes in the community. Like and comment other people's and encourage them. Reach out to me and the community for when you're struggling. Be accountable and you will grow. I know this challenge is daunting. I can pretty much guarantee none of us have ever stuck to anything this long. But it's 10 minutes a day to transform your discipline forever. Think about that. I can't wait to see where you guys are at on New Year's Eve this year, 2024. And I can't wait to celebrate with you. I'll see you on the inside.